So we're here today with Mr. Shawn Williams.
It's a pleasure to be here with you guys.
Who is Shawn Williams?
I'm a second-degree black belt under Renzo Gracie. Been training jiu-jitsu for 15 years almost now. So, and I have a school now in LA. I did all my training in New York, but now I have a school in LA called 5 Star Martial Arts.
What's your take on gi or no gi?
Well, I have a pretty big take on it. Actually, I think, you know, to be really honest, to get the most out of training, you need to train both. That's the real, you know, that's the real answer. If you had to choose one, I would say choose the gi, even if you're gonna fight. There's some common misconceptions about the gi. People think that it's, you know, you develop all these grips and, you know, these sporty grips won't work in fighting. That's very true, right? You can make your game for fighting look the exact same in no gi as it is with the gi. But the gi is a great training tool. You know, it slows things down, it's sticky, it makes things more difficult, and actually there's much more going on. Even though it's a slower game, there's a lot more going on. There's a lot more finishes, there's a lot more sweeps, there's a lot more going on. So if you really look at that in itself, your mind has to process things much quicker. It's just kind of an oversight by a lot of the guys. They think no gi is faster. The movement is faster, but the mind is much faster with the gi. Even though you're not wearing a gi into the fight, you should train it. If you look at all of the great champions, most of them train gi. And if you look at the biggest no gi tournament that there is, the Abu Dhabi Championships, all of the champions train the gi.
So when you're training with Georges St. Pierre, is he in a gi?
Yeah, sometimes off fight camp, he always wears the gi. You know, he's training in the gi and the no gi. But you know, the closer the fight comes and the gi comes off, the focus is more on, you know, no gi.
So what are common training mistakes people make in their jiu-jitsu development?
Being aggro, you know, like having an ego. Actually, I always say that the most important methods of training is first and foremost drilling, which I think is the most overlooked part of training. It's not as fun as full training. So I think that's why people just go and they train. And then you've got a kind of a slow training that, you know, John, you know, I talk about John Danaher a lot, he's really a genius, but he made the term called S training, so we call this submission training. It's a slow kind of approach to training where both guys are almost cooperative. It's almost like drilling, but training. Like, it's very light though. You are gonna be finished, your training partner is gonna be finished, you're gonna be doing escapes, they're gonna be doing escapes. It's kind of getting to do the move in a real time without really going like this, butting heads, you know? Training is the last and least important way to get better. You have to do it if you're gonna compete, but it should be done as technically as possible.
What percentage should people roll at while in the gym training with their partner?
I think it depends on their training partner. I have an approach where, you know, the biggest problem I see is when people hurt people. So my #1 rule in my gym is you don't hurt your training partner. So some people like to go hard, you know, and if there's that acknowledgement of both people, they want to go 100%, cool. If your training partner, if you are kicking the crap out of your training partner and obviously the guy is not liking it, then you need to have the common courtesy and respect to chill. If you get injured, you can't train. So if you're training like a clown all the time and 100% all the time, most likely you're injured a lot. If you're injured a lot, guess what? You're not training. The idea behind jiu-jitsu is to have longevity. I mean, very few in the sport, very few that come in through these doors are gonna wanna be professional fighters and they're gonna wanna win the world. So the next step is train for longevity. You know, use this as a way of fitness and train for the rest of your life, not just for 2 years and be hurt, you know?
What should people know about jiu-jitsu?
That it's still the best martial art out there. You know, I saw Royce fight, and then most importantly, I saw Renzo fight, and that's what made me move to New York. And it really showed the technique of what jiu-jitsu is versus other martial arts. So that's my love of it. I thought, wow, in a non-weapon, hand-to-hand scenario, like jiu-jitsu is the king. And even though today everybody trains everything, if there's one martial art that stands out against all the other martial arts, if you don't know Brazilian jiu-jitsu, you will lose in a fight like the UFC. You have to train jiu-jitsu. That's the one martial art that you must train. Striking, you can be okay at striking if you have great wrestling, right? And you're able to get the match to the floor. But if you don't have jiu-jitsu, you're in trouble.
What do you think of Eddie Bravo and his techniques?
I think he has some great creative stuff, you know, I like the guy personally. I think he's very funny. I think he likes to talk about himself a lot, which isn't my goal, you know, like I don't like to talk about myself. I don't like to say, oh, I'm so good, or I did this, or I did that. He did something very, very intelligent, which is naming his moves. Even the names are ludicrous, but they work, right? If you say crackhead control, people know what it is. And sometimes in our sport, if you say, hey, do an arm lock, you're like, which arm lock? You know, well, a Nudigatami, then you know it's an upside down arm lock. It has a name, it's easy to associate.
Anything else you want to put out there?
No, I'd like to thank, you know, all my team, you know, especially like without Renzo Gracie, I wouldn't be here. And I'd also like to send a huge, huge thank you to Elliot Baev and the OpenMat Mixed Martial Arts for having me out here to do a seminar today and tomorrow. Great teacher, and is developing a group of killers and very nice people.
Great, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Harris.